Well, good afternoon and happy Monday, 3 o'clock Eastern Time. Welcome to Mondays with Michael Live here on Facebook. Thanks for joining me today. Today we're going to start a four-part series all about DiSC, everything DiSC. We're going to do a four-part series. I get asked pretty regularly from clients a little more information about the four styles. What does it all mean? So over the next 4 weeks, we're going to do a deeper dive discussion around each of the four styles. I'm going to give you that information from different perspectives. I'll show you what that's going to look like in a little bit. And so this week we'll start with D, dominance. Next week we'll do I. The week after that S, and the week after that C. I'm going to give you that information from the perspective of kind of a general overview. We'll do that first. But then we're going to do a little deeper dive. I'm going to give you that information if you are a teammate of somebody who's D, if you're an employee that reports to somebody who's D, if you're an employee who happens to have a boss that's D, and then from a customer sales perspective. So we're going to go through each of those four, and then I'm going to give you some tips if you happen to be a D style, some things you may want to think about. As always, we'll give you a couple of commercials along the way. Our first commercial today is about our webinar we have coming up the first week in November. We do have our showcase this week around the 5 behaviors. That's pretty much sold out, so thank you all for signing up. But I am going to do a webinar on that program on November 8th. So I'll give you a little more information about that as we go through these next 4 weeks. But on November 8th in the afternoon, we'll do that updated webinar for those who can come to the showcase. We'll do a webinar for those who can come. So let's talk about this style D, dominance, which is the first letter in the DiSC model. So just a general overview about D. D's dominant behavior in the workplace, dominant style. These folks like to be in charge. They like to be in control. Matter of fact, they need to be in charge and need to be in control. They like to control situations. They like to control meetings. They like to control conversations. They like to control projects. High D's in the workplace like change. They'll change something just for change's sake to see what happens. And they like to debate. Matter of fact, they like to debate about anything. They'll debate about the grass growing outside. D's like to debate, like to be in charge, like to be in control. So how do we work with these folks in the workplace now that we've identified their style? So let's talk about D as a teammate. So if you have a teammate who demonstrates high D dominance behavior, how do you interact with this person? Well, D as teammates want to get things done, and they want to get things done right away. They work with a sense of urgency. They tend to initiate change and want to be in control. When approaching them as a teammate, if you're a teammate, when approaching them in a conversation, keep the conversation short, to the point. It's not a long conversation, it's a short conversation. Matter of fact, you may want to carry an index card talking about exactly what you want to cover in bullet points. Keep it focused on business items and not personal. Keep it short, keep it sweet. So that's what you want to do with someone who shows D behavior. If an employee who reports to you, if you're the boss and your boss is and the person that is reporting to you is D, and you've identified them as D, so what do you do with an employee that reports to you that's high D? Well, if a high D direct report wants responsibility and wants leadership on your team, they're coming to you looking for leadership and responsibility. They work quickly and can take on many assignments. You can delegate a lot of tasks to somebody who's high D because they like to have a lot of plates in the air at the same time. They like being recognized for their work, but don't always seek out the limelight. We'll talk about I's next month. But they do want to be recognized for their work. They're always looking for the next promotion and career pathway to boost their career. So they're always looking for the next rung on the ladder, if you will. So if you're a boss, some things to keep in mind if you have someone who's D that reports to you. Now, if the D within your workspace is the boss, so if you report to somebody that's D, these are some things to keep in mind. D bosses can be very domineering while leading their teams. They tend to want to be right all the time and can be intimidating to those direct reports. D bosses with D bosses, you want to try not to get on their bad side, as they can from time to time seek to punish those who disagree with them or make them look bad. They don't want to look bad. Again, like we talked about earlier with teammates, keep conversations short, to the point, keep it all about business. Get to the point, keep it all about business again. Writing things down is probably a good idea. Okay, so if you're working with somebody as a customer service provider or you're trying to sell to somebody, and you've identified their style as D. Now, in our database, I try to identify everybody where I can along the way, so I know where they are in the DiSC model. So if you're working with a D in a sales situation or a service situation, these as customers and prospects don't need all the fluff to make a buying decision. They don't need all the bells and whistles. They just need the general information to make a decision. They want to make a quick decision and usually have a lot going on, so they don't want to spend a lot of time in the sales process. They want to get just the information they need to make a decision. When servicing a D customer after the sale, always be short and to the point. Keep it focused on business. Stick to the business and return calls from them promptly. They want that immediate customer service. They don't want to be waiting a long time. And when you finally get them on the phone, get to the point, move on. Remember, keep it focused on business. So if you are a D in the style, if your style is D, these are some things, some tips for you to think about as you go to work every day. So if you're a D, one thing you need to keep in mind is not everyone moves or works as fast as you do. Ds tend to work at 300 miles an hour, and not a lot of people outside of this D quadrant tend to want to work that fast. So Ds, you have to understand that not everyone wants to work as fast as you do. Ds, I need to tell you this straight up. You are not right all the time. You may think you're right all the time, but you are not right all the time. You need to be aware of the fact that sometimes you may be wrong. Arguing for arguing's sake isn't what most people want. Most people don't want to argue and debate all day like you do in the office. So just don't argue for arguing's sake. Don't take the other side all the time, just to take the other side. Make sure that you're trying to be positive and try to be agreeable at times with those that work around you. Again, I know this is going to be hard for you Ds. You need to give up leadership on projects when you can. Share leadership when you can. You don't need to be in charge all the time. You don't need to lead every project all the time. Be willing to share leadership with others on your team. Give other opportunity to share, and you may be able to mentor or coach somebody to get them to be a better leader. So be willing to share leadership. The last on my list for you this week is for Ds, it's not about business all the time. You need to lighten up a little bit. You need to chill out a little bit. Smell the coffee sometimes. Have a cup of coffee sometimes. Join me at Starbucks. I'll meet you there for a coffee. Talk about other things rather than business. Talk with folks about their family vacations. Talk about sports. Talk about other topics of mutual interest. It's not about business all the time. So focus on some other things, especially if you're a boss. Focus on some other things of mutual interest with those direct reports that report to you, and lighten up a little bit once in a while. So that's a general overview of the D style. For those folks who come to the class, we teach several classes around DiSC. They learn a little more, obviously a little deeper information around the DiSC style. For those of you that are listening today and would like to take the assessment from us free of charge, we'd be happy to send you the link to take the Everything DiSC Workplace Assessment. Next week, we'll be talking about the high I style in the workplace and some of the nuances. But we're going to do the same type of thing. We're going to go through all 4 areas that we talked about as far as working with, reporting to, or servicing somebody of the I style. And then we're going to give some tips for the I's at the end. Some things you may want to think about with working with others on your team. So I see we're coming up to the time. So I will put a link in the message here about our webinar coming up. Thanks for hanging out with me in the room today. Mondays with Michael live here on Facebook. I want to thank a couple folks who joined me today. Thanks for coming into the room, Robert and Susan. Thanks for showing up today. And then the rest of you, thank you for watching this later. Mondays with Michael live here on Facebook. We'll see you next Monday, 3 p.m., talking about the I style in DiSC. Have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.